Hi everyone, welcome to Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social. Hope everyone's doing okay. Oh, who went? Todd went.
Todd.
Well, as Todd's coming back on, I'll just thank Eric. Thank you so much. We haven't even started the live stream yet, and you're already gifting memberships. Thank you so much. And if anybody does want to become a channel member, I put the link in the channel as well. I'll be doing a members live stream. I'll try and do one this week, but I've been doing some members content as well. So I did my members video EDC. So. Anyway, while Todd's coming back online, Colby, you're in the hot seat. What are you wearing?
So I have my favorite watch on, the watch I got married in, watch I proposed to my girlfriend, then in my IWC Mark 20. So it'll be a big part of my strategic plan today for IWC. So it's fitting that I wear it.
Excellent. That'll be an interesting story if the girlfriend and the wife aren't the same person.
It's true. They are. Don't worry. They are.
I wore this for a proposal.
Allegedly.
A separate occasion and unrelated, also a wedding. Mark, what are you wearing?
Well, since Todd S isn't here, I'll do the two watch thing. So the first one is the easier one to see.
Oh, yep.
This is the Christopher Ward. He said easier to see. Come on, watch. Christopher Ward C65 super compressor in black sand. They only ever made one batch of these. Yes, the logo is 1/4 millimeter off. Whichever idiot found that, I don't know. Definitely my favorite super compressor. I love the black sand. Nobody else did though. They sold very few.
Well, it might be a modern classic then, might it?
Yep.
Oh, yep.
And then the other modern classic is the Seamaster 300 SMP Tokyo 2020. So this is the 100 Days to Tokyo released in 21.
Yeah, that blue's awesome. Cool.
There you go.
Todd, what are you wearing? Well,
sorry, Sam. I don't know what happened, but when I got muted backstage, I lost everything. I couldn't come back. I'm back now. So I'm wearing my Old Faithful. It's the Silver Surfer. It's the Tudor Black Bay 41 without the bezel. This is pretty much my everyday, all the time watch.
Oh.
And before we get going to Robert Coleman, yep, it is a legit super compressor with the spring in the back. They had compressor 1, compressor 2, which weren't sprung case, and then compressor 3. The super compressor had the spring in the back. So yeah, this has the spring in the back.
Yeah, and Von Krall's backing that up. Yeah, they actually bought at auction. They bought a compressor and reverse engineered it. Yeah. Excellent. And I am wearing my Bremon. I found the reason it's on a NATO for a change is I found curved spring bars that were quick release. So I don't know if they just started doing them, but yeah, it's got curved quick release spring bars on the back. Look at that. Nice. So now I can get a strap onto the watch.
I'll have to send you a link to that tool I found that shapes your any spring bar to a curved spring bar.
Yeah. Or as we joked on the live stream about it being like an eyelash curler. Not that I've ever seen one, but
yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone, and thanks. Thank you. Eric's getting a lot of love for all of the memberships, and welcome to all the other members as well. Hi, Junior. Okay, we are going to do. This was Colby's idea, but I'm going to pass it off as if I thought of it. We're talking about who could top Rolex. And then I decided, well, there's some legitimate ones, so we'll do legitimate ones. And then, of course, we'll have to do some jokey ones. So please, in the comments section, let me know your picks as well, or let us know your picks. Canadian Watch Monkeys come straight in with Invicta. I mean, stealing the thunder already.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, let us know your picks. And then if you've got any reasons for the picks, definitely do that. So let's start off with, well, first off, if you're not subscribed to the podcast, Todd and I have been we're on our week 7 of our podcast, Casual Watch Talk podcast, bringing it back. So if you want to here audio only. It's a dedicated audio podcast. It isn't an audio live stream. So we did our confessing our watch collecting regrets. I uploaded this morning. So if you want to hear us in the car or at the gym, then fire it up. Awesome. Okay, well, let's start off with. Actually, we'll go with. I think Colby, we have to start with you because this was your idea. Let's see your idea.
Well, let's start. Can we start with IWC?
We can absolutely start with IWC. Yes.
Okay. So IWC is my favorite brand. I have the Mark 20, like I pointed out at the beginning of the video. I think they already have so much going for them, but there are things they can do to really accelerate their popularity. So here's my take. Here's my take on what they could do. Number one, invest in movement technology. Okay, they need to develop something like Rolex's superlative chronometer, and if they could beat it, if they could get to like plus or minus 1 second a day, that would be great. They also need to have movements that are renowned for their reliability, right? How many times have we heard that about Rolex? They just work. They can take a beating and keep on ticking. Oh, wait, sorry, that's the wrong company. But that's what we hear about Rolex movements. And even watchmakers I know say, yes, this is a robust, reliable movement. So that would be number one. Number two, I would say they have to make pilot watches the new default watch instead of dive watches.
Okay.
So when people think of a watch, they need to think of a pilot watch instead of the Submariner or the Explorer. And then, hey, then we're playing in their backyard because they're the pilot watch people. Number three, I'm gonna say this is hard to describe, but they need to add some magic to their watch, right? And by this I mean they're little tiny things, and I think they have so much potential to do this. There are little tiny things that some of these Rolexes have that really are satisfying or impress people, like the way that the clasp closes over the ceramic ball bearing, or when you open the clasp, there's that little lever that actually unfolds the clasp. Things like that are really satisfying.
Okay, we think we lost Colby, or have I gone?
You're back.
You had gone, but you're back now. Colby's gone.
Oh, maybe there's like a StreamYard issue. Oh,
Colby's max headroom right now.
yeah. Do you know what? I'm gonna I'm gonna remove you, Colby, and then I'm gonna add you back in. Oh.
His internet's dropped by the look of it.
Oh yeah, no worries. Okay, well, what actually he was making a good argument there, wasn't he? And he's right about the Rolex. It does Tudor do this, where it has the little clip, but the clip is also has a little hinge on it, so you don't feel like you're really digging your nail in to pull out the.
Tudor has the thing that I love about them is that they have that ceramic ball bearing clasp. So it's a very robust and yet very smooth. Like when you first start wearing it, you feel like, is that just going to pop open? But it doesn't, because you're used to that kind of a firm snap that you need from a stainless steel one. And what's nice about it is, in theory, it will last substantially longer than a stainless steel one because it won't wear as quickly, that pressing in, pressing out, because this is kind of ceramics designed to deal with it.
Yeah, Colby, you're back.
All right, sorry about that. My internet on my main computer crapped out here, so we're on my phone for a second. I apologize for that.
Oh, no worries.
Do you want me to continue with my list, or
we got up to the ceramic ball bearings? Todd took it a little bit further. Todd could have ran with that idea, but yeah. So a better clasp, ceramic ball bearings, and then the little lever on the bracelet we got up to.
Yeah, stuff like that really impresses people. Just two more. Number 4, I'll say. Now this is hard. This is kind of universal, but an IWC watch needs to play an important role in a historical or pop culture moment. So whatever they have to do, beg, borrow, or steal, get an IWC Mark 20 on Mars. Okay. Make James Bond wear it, like Jean-Claude Biver did with Omega. However much you have to pay somebody, whatever you have to do that. Make it iconic in some way, right? Because the thing is, IWC has a lot of history, right? They go back before Rolex, 1888, but they don't have that one iconic pop culture or historical movement. They didn't go to the moon. They didn't scale Mount Everest. They weren't worn by James Bond, stuff like that. Nobody ever saw an IWC on Muhammad Ali's wrist.
Yeah, I mean, well, they were one of the original Dirty Dozen, weren't they? I mean, also some other questionable stuff around that time period. But weren't they one of the original Dirty Dozen? And before, I'm sure somebody's going to mention it in the comment, they do have that Top Gun watch, which is actually for Top Gun pilots that then ended up being in the film, I think. But
that is true.
Yeah, but
so yeah. And then number 5, I would just say just better marketing in general. I actually think they have a lot that they can brag about, and even a lot that they can brag about over Rolex, but they do such a poor job of communicating with customers, I think. Like, I was like 2 years seriously into the hobby before I really had IWC on my radar. So whatever that means, I think they need a better marketing team.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Mark, you might be better to answer this. Do they do a lot with F1, don't they? Aren't they? They don't sponsor Petronas.
Mercedes Formula One.
Do you think they do a good job of that in the market?
No watch brand really does a good job with Formula One, partly because Formula One, the races are sponsored separately. So remember that it was Rolex owned the races. The watches are stuck to the driver's wrist and some small space on an end plate of a car. To succeed in Formula One, what you need is the hoarding everywhere on the track, that sign across the track, which is what Rolex for 13 years had. I don't think any watch brand really does a good job of Formula One. And it's partly because they can't, because of the way the sponsorship is done.
Yeah. I thought it was clever what they did, IWC in particular. I think that they're the first ones I noticed it on in Formula One, because you can't wear a watch or really any jewelry when you're driving a Formula One car because of potential for fire. So they don't want them wearing anything like that. But they designed, I know on Lewis Hamilton's gloves, a print version of the watch that he wore. And I thought, oh, that's really clever, because it's constantly in the view on the driver cam. You could constantly see that IWC branding on his wrist. I thought, oh, that was pretty clever. You know, it looked just like that pilot watch design. It was kind of cool.
That was clever.
Yeah. So, Colby, you've got your first question is Dave Remus says IWC doesn't need to develop movements. Val Flavier could do it for them, but they would need exclusive IWC movements so they don't get put in Bomber Mercier, or even better, sell off Bomber Mercier.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't think it necessarily, I mean, yeah, it's one of those in-group, in-house deals. I think, aren't the movements that Valflorier make exclusive to IWC, the ones that they make for IWC, or do they put them in other watches too? Actually, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. So is this the movement manufacturer? Do they make like the perpetual calendars and stuff movements for them?
You know, I'm not sure about that either.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, Brassic Time came in with the and then James Blonde came in. Hopefully, I got this in before you said it, James Blonde. The Top Gun, the IWC Top Gun, which actually I think they gifted them, because you had to get it as a Top Gun pilot, because our yes, so IWC Top Gun, yeah, the CEO at my company was in the Top Gun program.
I have a hot take on that, though. This may upset Colby, and I don't mean any offense. I think it's going to be tough to shift the general consciousness, in my opinion, to the pilot watch as the go-to watch. There's something not as sexy about a pilot watch to me as there is in the diver or the everyday watch. The pilot watch has a very utilitarian, very by design, almost generic feel to it. And if you love them, you love them. But like, I don't know if the general conscious, the public, which is what you're going to need to get that Rolex, hit to where everybody's like, that's a hot watch. That's just me. I think the Pilot Watch is a tough move.
It's easier to sell indices than it is to sell numbers on a dial. Because a whole bunch of people will say, I don't like numbers. Very, very few people will say, I don't like well executed round indices.
Yeah, this is a shirt idea here, isn't it? Actually, Mark, maybe you can answer this from Robert Coleman. He says you're actually better off sponsoring a slower car because the lead car gets minimal coverage during the race.
That's a tough one. How many people remember Braymont on the end plate of a Williams, for example? Because
good call.
When you're 10th, or rather when you're the slowest car and you're running 19th and 20th, you only get shown when somebody overtakes you or laps you. So, but then it's a tough call. If all the action is happening second, third, fourth, and you're Max Verstappen 3/4 of a lap ahead, you're not going to see it. So maybe you want to be on the second, third, and fourth fastest car instead.
Yeah, I would say midfield is where it's at. There's a lot more coverage in midfield.
Oh yeah. Well, that was a great first go there, Colby. Mark, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Do you want me to do my serious or my non-serious?
Well, let's do serious. Let's start with serious. Presumably that was your serious one, Colby.
Okay, so my serious contender to topple Rolex would be Omega. And there are some things that Omega have to do. They would have to double their peak manufacturing capacity from what was 800,000, not double, but increased by 50% to over 1 million. If you look at Omega now, they are the pretty much the commonest watch ever made. They make 1.3 million a year, or have the capacity for 1.3 million a year. These things aren't rare. So if you want to topple them, you should be looking at 1.3 million. Omega's peak, I think, was 810,000. They're now running around 600,000. So ramp up to be a dirt common watch, because there's nothing special about a Rolex. There's so many of them. They're not special.
Yeah.
Omega, like IWC for Colby, have to be on the moon again, whether that's SpaceX, NASA, or China. And they have to be at Mars, whether that's SpaceX or China. Because if they're not, the moon watch dies.
It's a great point. Yeah, I've always wondered that. Like, you imagine that Omega wants to compete with Rolex, but they don't play by the Rolex playbook. Like, they have so many. Is there like 120 different versions of the Speedmaster in name, and they just have all of these disparate families of watches. That, whereas Rolex is, hey, this is the ladies' watch, this is the dive watch, this is the chunkier dive watch, this is your travel watch, this is your travel dive watch. They're like very, most people can recognize what the watch is, or what the watch is by name, most watch collectors, whereas Omega's got so many disparate families of watches.
What else do they have to do? Marketing. Everybody who wants to topple Rolex has to do marketing. Rolex, the last 13 years were Formula One, they were Wimbledon. They have been the sponsor of events when they're the only watch sponsor, and they are one of the dominant sponsors. Omega have the Olympics, but it doesn't really show, because there are so many other sponsors at the Olympics. It doesn't really matter. For them, it's a technical challenge. Look at but it's not helping them grow the brand. They have sailing. 1 in 100,000 people gives a damn about sailing, whether it's the America's Cup or what. They need to own the sponsorship of a popular event, and they don't. That's clearly been part of Rolex's success, building that global vision and global luxury feel. You also need to make fewer watches, Omega. You do not have 4 Submariner lines. You have 4 Seamaster lines with 10 watches, with 10, 20, 30 watches in each of them. Stop it.
Yeah.
Get rid of the 300. Get rid of the Aquaterra. You've got the 300 SMP, and you've either got the Aquaterra or the Planet Ocean. You don't need all the lines you've got. Make your brand identity and the brand identity within sub-brands clearer. So it's clear that this is an Omega. It's not, it's a Seamaster. Well, which one of the 70 that are in the boutique now is it? I don't know.
Yeah. No.
So some brand simplification, some product line simplification. Omega are a much better movement producer than Rolex ever were, and always have been. But tidying up the details, getting the bracelets and clasps to the standard, getting the bezel click to the standard. It's no coincidence that Christopher Ward copied the bezel mechanism on Rolex, not on Omega, because they went out and they listened to everyone, bought the Rolex and copied it. I mean, just to get the bezel click. But having that idea of rarity, even though you're as common as muck, which is what Rolex have achieved. Yeah. Common as muck, 1.3 million a year. These are not rare watches. After the Apple Watch is probably the most made watch in the world. Stop having, maybe target that, everybody. Target Rolex's weak points. But, Rolex from the 90s built that marketing. If you flew Concorde, what would you wear? They were supremely successful. And quite frankly, they're living off that legacy, but nobody has come close to touching them. So if you want to beat Rolex, you've got to have the manufacturing capacity, you've got to have the design clarity, and you've got to have the marketing.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, another good one. Todd, do you want to go next? What was your... or does anybody have any comments on counters on Omega? I think it was a very good points made there.
Yeah, I think he nailed it. I mean, Omega they're their own worst enemy. Really.
Yeah.
And It doesn't help that they're part of the Swatch group.
Yeah.
And Swatch manages the group, not for dominance of a single brand, because that wouldn't work either for the group.
Yeah, good go.
Cool. Okay, Todd, you're up next. What was yours? Well,
first of all, I want to applaud both Colby and Mark. That was a very academic and well thought out response to the question. Mine is more. Mine is more.
Go on, love the tone.
Mine's more romantic. Mine's more. I didn't go that deep into the details, and I'm going with TAG Heuer. And there's a couple of reasons why. First of all, as I've mentioned many times on the show, when I was a kid, TAG Heuer and Rolex were interchangeable. Those were both a rich man's watch. I didn't know at the time one was worth more than the other, and it didn't mean. But someone had a tag, I thought, well, that guy's doing well. I know they went into a really bad dip, but they are now coming back into public perception. They're becoming very popular again, and now they are backed by the power of LVMH. They are not messing around. They have a large corporate infrastructure that is supporting this next movement. And then to Colby's point, they're having their pop culture moment next year. The fact that they are the F1 sponsor that Mark was talking about, it's not on someone's wrists only. It is going to be the branding all around the track at the beginning. It's going to be the clock. They are going to be highly visible. So now that Formula One has become so popular, especially, in America, this is new to America since COVID, since that Netflix series. Now that it's become so popular and they're going to have that visibility, I just think the American market is going to go, ooh, I think I might want to look at a TAG. And tags their boutiques are pretty easy to get into, and there's no waiting list. So if I want one, I can just go buy one. And they have, to Mark's point, I think, a pretty focused product lineup. They have, you get your Monaco, you get your what is the one that's the box, that's a beautiful vintage version. You get your Formula One, you have a quartz model, you have mechanical versions, but they don't have this giant product offering. They have focused product lines, which I think could give them some success. I think I'm a fan, and I'm like, and I know we're talking in crazy world, like it's not going to happen, but you could see them making a move much back into that Rolex realm, I think, in my opinion.
I totally agree with this, and you're right. I went looking at tags yesterday, and even in Bloomingdale's, which stocks them, they had a full cabinet of them. So I mean, they didn't have the new F1s, but they've got, the store has just been redone in the local mall to me, the Mall at Millennium in Orlando, and it looks spectacular. The Rolex store looks absolutely amazing as well. They've doubled the size, but the tag store looks really cool. It's got the F1 already, the pictures and stuff, and it looks really funky, the store. So
yeah,
it's funny that, speaking of tag and pop culture moments, my wife and I are just finishing up rewatching Breaking Bad.
Oh.
And I don't know if you've seen Breaking Bad, but that is the watch that Walt gets from Jesse.
Yep.
And we see several close-ups of the TAG Heuer in Monaco, including when Walt is killing 9 men in prison within a 2-minute span. We see the chronograph hand on the Monaco spin around. And so I don't know if that's positive or negative, but
yeah.
Well, I thought the same thing, because in that moment, Jesse was getting him something very special, something, akin to giving someone that Rolex box. Like, hey, this is a moment for you, and this is your watch. And that watch became part of him through the series. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad. I'm a big Steve McQueen. I love Steve McQueen films. And I never liked them using his image for the Monaco, because he didn't wear one in real, even though him and Paul Newman were amateur racers, weren't they? Or I think Paul Newman even actually competed, didn't he? And Steve McQueen did it. And but they used an image of him wearing the Monaco, but that was a film. He was playing the character of an F1 racer. So and they used it for like 40 years almost, that one same Steve McQueen image. And I never liked the sort of it was a stretch, really. It was one photograph that they would use of him for everything, and really he wore it in that one film, but in real life he wore like a hand heart and a Rolex, didn't he, and stuff. So, but anyway, okay, so I think actually my one is the closest that we will get, because it is currently number 2 to Rolex, and Omega is number 3, and my one is Cartier. I think Cartier has got a real chance of at some point toppling Rolex. I'm talking about Cartier watches. So they've actually gone up recently. So I think for the last 3 years they've been number 2, but they crept up because of 3 years previous they were number 3, with Omega being number 2. So they've kind of shifted that. They've shifted with Omega back and forth. They of course were the first to make. Well, they allege the first men's watch was made by Cartier. Louis Cartier made it for the pilot Alberto Santos Dumont, hence the name of the Santos. So they've got that history, that lineage. The Santos is their classic one. To get to number 1 though, I think they really need to make a more types of men's watches. So they've got a lot of, obviously the tank, there's a men's size tank, but it's known as, mainly the tank is known as the women's watch. And then the Santos, of course, is known as a more masculine watch, but it's also very much, it's a sports watch, but also with its Roman numerals, it's very much a dress sports watch, I would say. If they came out, and I don't even mean like they'd have to go extreme, like with a diver, but if they made something more tooly, a more of a tool type watch to take on the Submariner maybe, or to take on the you know, the like the Daytona, they have a Santos chronograph, but essentially it just looks like a Santos just with chronograph hands. All of their lines seem to fit into very similar looks, and I think they are big enough now to do something bold, and they do amazing stuff at Watches and Wonders, crazy watches, but they're like piece uniques, aren't they, or low production ones. I think for their main, because they've got the distribution channels, they've got the name recognition. I think that if they had made more tooly type watches that would appeal to a bigger audience, appeal to that Rolex buying audience, I think that they would definitely they could definitely get to number one.
Well, and they have the huge factor, huge female audience, you know, that a lot of these other watches don't have. Women love that watch, and they love that it's quartz. Let's go. Like, I don't want to have to think about it. Like, it's a piece of jewelry that happens to tell the time. So they have a win there.
Yeah. And that Santos also, I mean, there is multiple different versions of it, but the dials are different colors, but they're all about the same. Like, if you don't like Romans, like Mark, you're stuffed basically with the Santos. You can't. There is no. I mean, there might be a past model, but as far as I'm aware, I don't think there's any current Santos models that don't have they all have the Romans. So if you don't like them, you know, tough basically. But they have tried to butch it up a little bit, like some of these new ones, or this with the DLC coated thing, which I do actually quite like the look of that, but there's not much variety.
I like the skeletonized one too. The skeletonized one is beautiful. Yeah. It's cool. Yeah, that's a manly looking watch.
Awesome. So there you go. So that was my one. Right. So we're back around now to our joke picks. So Colby, you're up first. And yours is the only one I would say isn't a joke pick, otherwise I'll get in trouble. But
yeah, I mean, a man can dream. Obviously, we're, Christopher Ward talk on this channel. But no, okay. Here, this is my best pitch for Christopher Ward. Okay, so I've my 4-point plan. Number one is continue expanding your line of previous watches. Premium watches. Continue expanding your line of premium watches. So I would say don't, keep the. Well, I don't know. Maybe eventually they would have to get rid of that cheap stuff under $1,500, but I think they need to expand their premium line. Number two, I think they need to lean into their in-house movement. I think they have a good in-house movement, and I think it should be standard on all models over $2,000. I also think they would need to developing like a 3-hand / date only variant. And because you don't want everyone to have a power reserve.
They've done that. There's about 10 different versions of the SH21.
Oh, well, that makes sense because they use it in the 12X, don't they? That's right. Okay, we'll check. Hey, they're already there on that one.
They've gone up the list already.
They've been listening, Colby. They've been listening.
That's right. Number 3, I would say I would continue hosting in-person events. I think that's really, really important for them because what they're trying to do, what's the guy's name who goes around? Mike
Pearson.
Yeah, Mike Pearson. Sorry, Mike. I met him several times. As Mike Pearson says, they're trying to reprogram what X dollars feels like for a watch. I think that's very, very important because I think they make great products, right? And their best chance is to actually get them into people's hands and say, feel for yourself, try this on. And that's their best chance to persuade people. And then number 4, I would say, I think ultimately, if they're going to beat Rolex, they have to have in-person distribution. So they have to open boutiques. I don't know if they want to be in ADs or open boutiques, but I think that's what they would have to do. An online-only watch brand with one showroom in Dallas is not going to overtake Rolex. So that's my plan.
Well, that's going to kill their pricing model. Once you have that boutique, all those cheap watches are going to cost like Rolexes.
And if you want to be like Rolex, all of that has to go straight back behind the curtain. All of that transparent pricing, and they also don't have they don't really have a ladies focused like jewelry watch, do they? They have just smaller versions of the tool watches. So there's not anything that's a little bit more slender. The 12 you could argue is, but they don't have like Cartier has those, and Rolex obviously has the date justs that with the.
They did try to. They had.
They used to have a ladies' range many years ago, but haven't had for a while. But they're trying to say they don't need it because there's no such thing as a man's watch or a woman's watch. There's a watch that you like that fits your wrist. So they're doing it by sizing rather than by having specific watches for men and women. But rather like Cartier, having 34 mil grab-and-go quartz watches that are extremely well made, that's a gap.
Well, they do have some stuff. So they make 36 mil watches, and I know they make them in bright colors, which stereotypically appeal to women. So I do think they're aware of that, but no, they don't have anything. Although, then again, Rolex, their ladies' watches are just shrunk down versions of the men's watches.
With diamonds.
With diamonds. Yeah, and gold. I mean, my I could only go off my wife Helen. I've shown her multiple crystal walls and offered to buy one, but any day she would. I mean, she wears an Apple Watch, but I bought her an Omega Seamaster, which was a reduced down version, but it had the mother of pearl dial and it had the diamonds on the indices, and that's what she liked about it. So I don't know whether they have that, the bling. Actually, they don't actually have a bling men's watch, do they? Really? I mean, the Belcanto is like a technological bling, but it's not a like a bling watch, like like the high end tags, or obviously Rolex is the gold.
I'd say the other thing for Christopher Ward is that they need a design that hangs around for more than 4 years.
The thing too, though, with those 36s that they came out with, that came in the fun colors, like the turquoise that I bought, the leather straps that came with those were lady size. I couldn't get that on my wrist. At the very last one, it was still squeezing. I was like, wow, this was not a unisex design. It's not like I've got some big burly man wrists. I was like, this leather watch strap felt like it was made for a woman. Like I couldn't even use it.
Yeah.
And I'd say the other thing for Christopher Ward is they have to strip value out of their DNA. I know I should be Pete McConville, so imagine I'm a tall, grumpy Australian. Hard to do. But Christopher Ward, even when they're making a watch, are selling value. Rolex never sell value. They sell Rolex.
I agree. The value should be there. It has to be there, but it needs to be implied.
You don't have to talk about it.
Yes, not stated.
Yeah.
And also the difference between Rolex sponsorship and then Christopher Ward sponsoring Everton is perhaps a little delta there on sports.
Yes.
So we've got some comments coming through. So we've got Osanola is saying Roadster, Ballon Bleu, and Pasha. Yes, but they're all like dressy watches for Cartier. The Ballon Bleu, especially,
it's like having 12 different colored jackets for your tuxedo.
Yes, that's a great point. Yeah, and then Cartier making a sports watch is the horological equivalent of the Maserati SUV.
Yes,
okay,
nailed it.
Yeah, that might not be bad. And then Cactus Jack says CW needs a standout dress watch to complete their catalog. Also, they have to make some women's watches too, which was our point. Is the Belcanto, is that a dress watch? It's not a sports, or is it just like a high complication? Is it its own category?
The new one is a little bit more dressier than the old one, because the old one straddled the line between dress and sports, I think, with its handset, especially.
Yeah. I own the one that I think that looked like a dress watch. It was one of their first issues with the SH21. It's Roman numerals, leather strap.
Oh, they did, yeah.
Small seconds. The only problem with it is that first iteration of the SH21, especially in the one I have, that ends up being a big hunkin' watch. So it kind of falls out of that dress watch slip under the cuff. It does, but it's not like a Cartier, where it's barely there.
And an SH21 is never going to give you a slim watch.
No.
And it's never going to give you a watch that's less than 40 millimeter.
Yeah, it's a big.
It's 120 hour twin barrel.
Yeah,
120 hour power reserve twin barrel. That sets limitations. It was designed to be, by the words of their own designer, a tractor. Yeah. It's going to be reliable, and the engineering is on the brutal side for watchmaking. But that's its intention.
But it's a handsome watch.
The moon phase sorry, Todd. The moon phase 37 and 40 might be more dressier.
Yes.
Yeah. The moon phase.
That's the offering the dressy category.
Agreed.
Awesome. Cool. Well, let's tick that off. We've talked about Christopher Ward on the live stream, so we could tick that off.
The check is coming in the mail.
We hardly ever mention them. Okay, so we're going to. Oh yeah, Mark, we're going to you. So this is your one.
Saint Martin, the next Rolex. And we had people say Steinhardt and Invicta. I did actually think of picking Invicta, and one of the reasons I was going to pick, and I could have picked Steinhardt. I wish I'd thought of them. Is, let's face it, they already know how to make Rolex.
Yeah.
They've already put the Rolexes through the photocopier, so they already know what a good or a standard dive watch looks like. But let's think about this as if we were going to be a little bit more creative rather than purely cynical, shall we?
Okay.
What does Rolex have? Well, Rolex has heritage. I can't say Steinhardt has a great deal of watchmaking heritage, but then neither does MB&F, and nobody cares that MB&F's only been around 21 years. So let's scrap just that 200 years of heritage off the list. And if there is a handbook of how to market your heritage, which there is, no one should be buying a product based on heritage. You're being marketed to. They know it, and you're a sucker if you buy the story and the heritage. But China has 2,500 years of history in one form or another. And, history and heritage, they're kind of mutable in the marketing world. You have the opportunity to take a lot of influence to do something unique. You already know what a good case looks like. Hey, you're in China. You're in the same place using the same suppliers as most Swiss manufacturers for their cases and their bracelets. You've got so many advantages. Your supply chains are shorter. So what you've got to do, yes, get some movement technology. That's where they're lacking, but they're starting to learn their own design. They have the manufacturing chops. They have the history. It's not of watchmaking, but that's mere copywriting away. They are all accounts, if you listen to Jody, for the money, really, really good. They've figured out case making. So design and maybe some integrated manufacture. There's nothing to stop a Chinese brand taking over the world. And let's face it, they're a Chinese brand. So they have the potential for much greater potential for China, which is really shutting down the Swiss watch brands. Yeah. You could take Chinese watchmaking, starting low. You're in China. You understand potentially the biggest watch market in the world. It shouldn't be the US. So you've got to figure out the countries for 2050 plus, and that's China and India. And San Martin have a chance.
Yeah, I was watching something from Business Insider about the Chinese market, and they were saying that the luxury goods there, all across the board, are really suffering big time. And people are actually, even the Chinese people now are going toward, because they were famously didn't like the dupes, did they, or the fakes? They wanted the real thing, but now the like brands are doing well because of the economy and stuff like that over there at the moment. But
I think So it goes is taking us far too seriously.
Agreed. I was going to mention that.
But
this last Coke versus Pepsi. San Martin. Yeah.
Yes, we know it's that. We know exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. Mark did the assignment.
Right now.
Yeah, right.
But it could be different.
I'm going to really upset So It Goes. So let's.
Yeah.
Sorry, So It Goes.
Well, Todd, I mean, are you ready? You ready for yours? Let me just. There we go. Okay,
buckle up. So It Goes. If Sam had you upset, get ready for this. Pagani Design.
This hurts.
So here's the thing. Yeah, here's the thing. So it's a no-brainer. They've already got the most popular designs assembled in-house. There isn't a popular flex brand they haven't re-engineered and put into their catalog. I mean, just look. They've got the infrastructure, as Mark was mentioning. They have the ability to create and distribute any new release within weeks of a release of the original. There's no wait list. There's no waiting. You just wait for the next AliExpress sale, and I've got it for even cheaper. They're direct to consumer. There's no snooty AD you have to deal with. You don't have to buy jewelry and all sorts of other things to get it. To get the watch of your dreams, you just click and it's yours. Finally, half the people out there pretending to have Rolexes are already rocking a Pagani Design. They just don't tell their friends. and as we famously talked about on the channel, I have the Alaska Project Pagani Design that's actually better looking than the original Omega. It's got a ceramic insert, sapphire glass, and a beautiful sweeping movement on the chronograph hand. Like, how can you complain?
And a sapphire bezel.
Yeah. So you're likening Pagani Design's ridiculous ripping off of other people's designs as if it's a concert pianist practicing other people's music to get better.
What can I tell you? They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, is what they say.
Does Pagani Design, do they even have one original design? I mean, even one?
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, Gerald Genter did help them with this one, so I mean, that could be, this could be. Look at that, Colby. You've got a cross between the Ingenieur and the.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is an incredible copying machine they have over at the Pagani Design Factory.
Perhaps it should be Pagani to photocopier, but okay.
Design is a little bit of a stretch.
Pagani dupes to dupes.
There
you go, Mark. Yeah, you got them all.
Isn't that a Tudor ripoff? Oh no, that is the Seamaster ripoff.
That's a Seamaster.
It with arguably better hands. Sorry. And Longins is getting it as well. There.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No one's safe at that factory.
Oh, I know.
No one's intellectual property is safe.
Longines now signed up the dude of all dudes, the gentleman of all gentlemen, Henry Cavill is now on Longines. Is there anything he can't do? There's nothing, is there? He's just the all-rounder.
Well, just if he had normal human length arms, that would be the only thing that's missing for Henry Cavill. He's got those short little tyrannosaur arms. But
Henry Cavill, if you are watching, you're welcome on the show. We don't play Dungeons and Dragons, but we talk watches. You're welcome on. Okay, so right, okay. So then I'm up final here, and my one is So I think of somebody that's got integrated designs, got unique designs, and they are very exclusive. I am going with Zelos. So the reason I picked Zelos is that they are unique designs. They have a good mixture of watches. They don't really do like a ladies' watch, so to speak, but they have high complication watches that they make. They're not afraid to use the different materials. So Rolex with its RX titanium or whatever, or its own mix of gold. Zelos uses Damascus titanium, Damascus steel on their watches. They use bronze. They're very exclusive to get hold of. They sell out quite quick. Look, this is 10 pieces remaining on this watch here. They have their own style. I think that they could be definitely a contender. All they would have to do, I think, is make a couple that had more mainstream aesthetic. They are very. What makes them great is that they are such a distinctive design, but also I think that would also alienate people as well. So
they also hold their value almost as well as a Rolex.
That is true.
Their fan base will pay retail price for those even when used.
Yeah. And then there you go, Colby. You don't need a reticent or whatever renaissance. Renaissance. You've got the loom. These are very, joking aside, these are very well. Everyone that I've ever seen in person, they are very well made. They've got their own sort of glide lock clasp system as well, where you press the Z or the Z to adjust the clasp. So they're an all rounder. There's their version of the titanium watch as well. So I am going to. So Von Krull saying I sometimes feel like Zelos needs a bit more restraint in their dials. I like the fact that they use stone, they use aventurine, they use also mother of pearl. They are not afraid. Meteorite they use a lot. They even PVD coat the meteorite. They are not afraid of just going all in on their dial options. So that is my one. So let's have a look in the comments section here. So we had, let's have a look here. So yeah, the Black Santos is a little bit more sporty. That is correct. Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Dave Remus says, yeah, Cartier has something in common with Rolex. Pretty much all their watches have a uniform design type. No other candidate brand has that. This is true. Yeah, I think they just need to add in a few more interesting designs that would appeal to that tool watch focused.
And I think we said before, Cartier, a lot of Cartier's strength is that they know the women's market really well.
Yeah.
What they have to do is figure out how to translate that into that part of the men's market that likes a Submariner or a Daytona. That Cartier are probably the best candidate right now to take a real bite out of Rolex, but they won't until they figure out men's watches for men.
Yeah. And they have that bracelet, don't they? That lady's bracelet where once you attach it, it's like on there, isn't it? It's got like you have to have like a special screwdriver to get it off. It's like locked on there. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at what else we've got. Yes, Mark says, "Oh, I've seen where I mentioned Christopher Ward today." We very briefly. Let's see what. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, well there are people are calling out ones that we didn't call out, so we didn't go for the obvious ones, did we? We didn't do the old. Well, I suppose somebody did mention Tudor, but I suppose we couldn't really do Tudor, could we? Because they depends.
Well. Could Tudor take over Rolex? They'd have to do at least an order of magnitude more watches because they're 40,000, and so they need to be an order of magnitude to take them to 400,000. So that's a big stretch. They would need to have a design that's distinctive, which aside from the world's ugliest hour hand, they don't.
Oh.
You're just brutal. I can't disagrue with you more. I love that hour hand.
It's awful. It's as bad as a Roman numeral. If not worse.
I love Roman numerals as well. Okay.
Yeah, we've got a couple more.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we've got a couple more to that. So, Hublot.
No.
No.
Yeah, and I don't want to hate on them. Like there's something kind of cool about some of their designs. I
like that big back. The basic one. I do like the look of that.
I don't see them making the move at all.
Because they've got the distribution channels. They've got big retailers. There's a retailer the local mall here has got Hublot. But that Hublot here in the mall you never. It's next to Omega. You see people in Omega, but you never see anyone in Hublot other than the staff that work there. It's wild. I mean, it's next to a firehouse. It's next to a Firehouse Subs, but you see maybe which is weird. Oh, Häagen-Dazs and then Firehouse Subs, but weird location. But
I have a question for the panel. I originally had this as a comment under my Christopher Ward list. Oops, sorry, but
I've had the time today.
my thing. Do you think the best way, if a brand were seriously going to do this? Do you think the best way is to persuade watch enthusiasts first, and with the idea that it will then trickle down to the average user, or do you think the play is to make a broad appeal first?
I think it's a great question.
My take on that is what you just said. It's the latter. The broad audience thinks that we're crazy people. They don't even understand why you would have more than one watch, and they don't care about a lot of the things that we get all a Twitter about. They want to be able to show their friends, I got this. That's it. So you need that I think you just need that huge cultural shift that this watch means something.
But
the only thing being a watch enthusiast means to me is when I go to the pub, I have to tell anybody I have to deny it because it's not that interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because I guess we need something like maybe Rolex is it, but sort of like a Michael Jordan Air Jordan moment where it became cool to collect sneakers after the after the Jordans came out, but before it would have been a bit weird. Like, why have you got like 50 pairs of New Balance and Converse? Whereas now it's like, well, that's pretty cool. You've got all the different versions. Somebody's mentioning about H. Moser. I mean, production for a start, isn't it? They don't produce a lot of them.
Well, they sponsor a Formula One team, Alpine. Do they cover all the breadth of designs? They certainly have superior quality, superior design. But do they, and in fact, do they cover the breadth of design? Most of their watches are on the dressy side. They don't have that tool side. Could they do it? It would be a fascinating challenge.
Yeah, those are more mainstream.
But where's the date just?
I've never seen their diver.
Yeah. Where's the Lady Date just? Where's their Submariner?
They claim they have a diver. I'd like to see it. Do you see it, Sam?
Pioneer diver. Yeah. Pioneer.
I've never seen one. I've only ever seen these. Mostly the faces that have nothing on them.
Okay, let's have a look. There is a Pioneer diver. Pioneer tourbillon, Pioneer center seconds. Maybe who's commented that? But maybe are you saying that maybe it has good water resistance?
He's claiming there's a Pioneer diver. Or maybe he's just saying they should make a Pioneer diver.
Maybe yeah. 12.
Maybe that's
so is that 120 meters.
12 atmospheres,
yeah. Oh, interesting. Cool. Okay, well there we go. Well, wow, we covered all the bases there, didn't we? Hopefully, guys, you enjoyed that. Thank you for all of the comments. Thank you, Eric, for giving all of the new members some memberships. And yeah, I'll try and do a members only live stream this week, maybe tomorrow, but I'll give everyone plenty of notice. But a big thanks to the panel and thanks to everyone for watching. And we'll see you next week on Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a good weekend.